Hello, Stereo Azimuth here, and today I'm going to be talking small tube hybrids from Schiit. I have an original Valley one, and I have the newer one, the Valley 2 Plus. Now I've had a Valley 2, like their original one, for a really long time, and so hopefully we can talk about all these and see what's going on. So let's start with the Valley 1. Now, before we even get started on talking about these tube amps, or these tube hybrids, these small tube hybrids, is that I heard a video from Jason Stoddard from Schiit, and I've always pronounced it's Vali, okay? And he gets these, terms from like Norse mythology, right? Like Valhalla and Ragnarok and all these things. So the Vali, I've always pronounced it Valley, but apparently he pronounced it Vali. I don't know which is the correct pronunciation. Vali just sounds kind of odd to me, to be quite honest. So you might hear me use either one because I don't know. I mean, Jason will probably tell you, no, it's Vali. I mean, that's the way he pronounced it. So anyway, that aside, let's go to the actual amps themselves. Now, this right here, and the reason I have the screws off is because, yes, we're going to look inside in just a second. But this is one of the, first sort of, very early Schiit amps that you could buy. And very early production, in the, when Schiit was first starting to get going here. If you notice on the back, there's only power, the 16-volt AC power. There's power switch and power input. That's all you get. There's no gain switch whatsoever, and there's no gain switch on the front. All you get on the front is a headphone jack and your volume control. And there's a little LED indicator to tell you, when it's on or off, which is important because that LED is actually removed off of the new Valley 2 Plus. But let's just continue on, and basically you're like, wait a second, this thing is tube, where are the tubes? This is supposed to be a tube hybrid amp. It looks like a Magni amp, and matter of fact, the casing and everything else is very much Magni, and I think some of the amplification, like some of the circuitry of this is somewhat Magni-esque. So let's just take a look under the hood, and we can see. Ooh, tubes. So we have these Raytheon. What is that? AN. Let me get out my glasses. The 6088 tubes, basically. They are the miniature. They are miniature tubes. I believe they're single-ended triodes, I believe. So they're not dual triodes, they're single triodes, but they're not directly heated triodes either. They have a separate heater. But that's why you only see 5 connections here. So there's probably one connection to the plate, one connection to the cathode, one connection to the grid, and then 2 connections to the heater is what I think that they have here. And if you can see here, most of the other layout is very sort of Magni. You have these really big transistors on the output, because I do believe that it uses a tube front end and then uses the transistors as kind of like a buffered output. And then you just have the volume control here. So, and then there's 3 different regulators, voltage regulators here, probably one for the heater voltage, one for the transistor circuits, and then one for the actual plate. So, very interesting design. I don't know like the operating points and all of that. I do know I think it's run a little bit under the normal like sort of operating points for these tubes. But and then you also see these little pads. So the actual this is one of the things that I wanted to show on this amp is that I've placed these down here, but they have a tendency to like pop up. And so what you can do is you can use like clear speaker adhesive, and I'll put a link in the description if you like, and then you can put it on your tube. So if you have one of these amps and you're tired of it popping up, you can use a little bit more adhesive to put it down. You have to kind of put something on the tubes very lightly to keep them down. I used like a roll of tape to kind of put down on it, and then like put something on top of that roll of tape, so therefore it'll stay on there for like 24 hours and let the glue set. So as far as the sound of this amp, it is very interesting. It has a very like sort of incisive sound. It has a very like distinct sound. It's very, very immediate. Like there's I wouldn't call it like razor sharp, but I mean it's amazing how wide and how like airy and detailed like this small little amp can get. And you would think that you would need a like a gain control, but you really don't. It doesn't like it isn't like super powerful, but I mean it isn't. I never really felt like I needed a gain switch unless you're using like really sensitive IEMs or something like that. But yeah, it'll power like Sennheisers, like HD 800s, HD 650s, very much. I did find that it, because of the sort of magny nature to it, there was this little bit of harshness in the high mids that I didn't really particularly like, but the rest of the spectrum was very good. The low ends are really like kind of tight, because I mean I think they are, I don't know if it's just the tubes, just the way that it's made. It's not like a super powerhouse, but I will say that it's very sort of it has sort of an aggressive sound to it that is very like engaging. Like it forces you to kind of like listen to it. And the like I said, the depth and the width is really, really fantastic with the Valley One. And you can really hear like what tubes are kind of like all about. You're like, wow, this, I mean, does bring out some stuff that I didn't know I really needed, like with this. So yeah, I mean, I think these go on the used market. Sorry, my IEM is just like falling out. You can find these on the used market. I mean, anywhere from $100 to like $60. So very, very enjoyable amp, and the tubes will last a long time. Schiit has even said that they have plenty of stock of tubes, so even if your tubes like run out, you can contact them and probably pay a small fee or something like that, and they might be able to accommodate you on like changing out the tubes. So don't worry about going on like eBay and having to like solder and swap out tubes yourself. They can probably take care of you with that for probably, hopefully, like a small fee. I don't want to advertise for them, but contact their service department, and I'm sure they can take care of you. So the next, we're going to go to the Valley 2. Now the Valley 2 and the Valley 2 Plus are basically the same like type layout. I mean, they basically, I mean, it's been this way for like a really long time. And just Valley 2, you have the volume control and the headphone jack on the front, and on the back, we have some more stuff. So not only do we have this 24 6-volt AC adapter, it takes this like plug that's not a standard plug. And let me see if I can pull it over here, like underneath the camera without jacking up too much stuff. But basically, you see that it's a multi-pin plug that plugs into it with four little pins, 4-pin DIN plug. and he had to find a special, adapter, special, wall wart for that. So the reason why is because the 6 volts carries the heater voltage, and then the 24 volts is for the rest of the circuit. You have a input and an output. So in the output is not just a parallel off of the input. It actually follows the preamp of the tube. So, which is very interesting, because if you have a headphone plugged into the front of it, it will activate the line output here, which follows the volume control. Okay, so if you have like a speaker setup or something like that, with speakers in your setup, like in your desktop computer or something like that, you can plug this into your amplifier, and then when you're ready to listen to, speakers, just unplug your headphones, and then bam, you're listening to speakers. You also have a high and low gain. So that was another addition. Obviously there's a lot of people listening with with IEMs and stuff that, started demanding high and low gain. And yes, you can listen to this with IEMs, even with a tube. It sounds really, really good. The 2 Plus, I think, is a little bit more a little bit more precise for IEMs. So let's just talk about that for a second. The difference between the Vali 2 and the Vali 2 Plus. The Vali 2 Plus added the continuity circuit. Okay, it added this extra mojo, I don't know, sort of in the preamp section. I don't really know enough, but I do know, going back to the Vali 2 in comparison, because I had them both, is that the original Vali 2, does kind of have this warm, sort of enveloping nature to it. But when you compare it to the Vali 2 Plus, the 2 can sound a little bit more hazy, or kind of warmish, darker sounding. I think the Vali 2 sounds a little bit more precise. I think it has a little bit more extra end, top end details. I just do think it brings a lot more to the table when you compare the two. If even given the same tube, you put the tube in this one, you put the tube in the other, the 2 Plus just adds so much more energy that I think that you can, that I just really found it really super enjoyable. And I think I'm going to keep this little amp for a really long time, because it just, no matter what you plug into it, source or headphones or whatever, almost everything sounds great. And yes, you can still tube roll with the Vali 2 and the Vali 2 Plus. They still take the same tubes. You can use, and it comes stock with the 6B Z7, which I've always found a little bit bright, a little bit kind of lacking in the low end department. A little bit harsh on the top end, but you can use any ACC 88, 6922, 6-in-1P, or even go up to a 6CG7, which is basic. A 6CG7 is essentially a 6S-in-7, as my move my camera. So if you're talking about I've seen adapters adapt up to a 6S-in-7. If you use a 6CG7, that is basically a 9-pin or a Novel version of a 6S-in-7. They're electronically equivalent. You can also use adapters to other tubes. This is one I have for the 5670 or the 396A. So yeah, that's a popular, tube, is the 396A, the Western Electric. This is just the GE military version, the 5670, which is not quite the 396A. But it's still, you can use that adapter, because even though that it's 9-pin, the actual internal connections to the tube are different. So the same goes for this. This is one of my favorite tubes that I use, and this is the one that's in it like pretty much all of the time in my Valley 2, and I'll show you down here. And it's basically an ECC 84. So this one, this particular one is an RFT ECC 84 tube. And yes, I have to use an adapter to use it with this tube. This adapter will also work with a ECC 89. I have some ECC 89s, and I found them too, like dark and woolly. But the ECC 84 just sounds a lot more like sort of balanced to me. In comparison, like I said, to the Valley 1 and the Valley 2 Plus, this one sounds a little bit more like energetic and wide. This one, the soundstage gets a little bit more narrow, but it's a little bit more deeper, I guess, in the soundstage, and a little bit more. There's a little bit more liquid, sort of like liquid lows, liquid, sort of not really. I wouldn't really call it too bloomy, not like a crack or something like that, but it's still like warmer. It still has like a warmer sort of tone, a warmer sort of like sitting down by the fire, but it still has a lot of energy, which is why I like it, because it brings so much, it has all of those like sort of elements all in one. But if you wanted a little bit more like energy and fastness and still retain like some tubeness, then the Valley 1. Excuse me, I need a little more coffee. So the other thing, I don't like the fact that there's no LED on the front of the Valley 2 Plus, because the whole thing is like I know a lot of people probably complain about it being the LED's too bright, and you already have a heater that is lighting up here, but sometimes like even this tube, like the heater is kind of like it's hard to see because it's kind of dim and kind of buried there. So depending on what angle that you're looking at, it can be hard to tell whether you have your amplifier on or off. But either which way, I like both of these amps. I think that this really shows you, this is one of the better, like, both of these are really kind of like some of the most stellar, like, shit amps that I have seen. And I know that Jason does like a lot to kind of like experiment and say, hey, what can I do here? Let's see how far we can push this, or how much I can do this and still stay within a budget. And, I think like this one was sold at $129. This one was sold at $149. I mean, and you can still buy this amp, the Valley 2 Plus, at $149 today in 2022. And that is a killer deal. Because it is, so small, so powerful. You can use it with IEMs. You can use it with desktop headphones. You can use it as a line out source. It's just an amazing amp. And it's a reason why it stayed in the shit lineup for so long, is because it does so many things so well and fits within a lot of people's budget. So yeah, I absolutely love, and the fact that you can roll like whatever that the tube that you want, because all you have to do is roll one tube. Now other, amplifiers, you have to get like match sets, and you have to do all this thing. You have preamp tubes, you have power tubes, but these you only have to change one tube. You want a new sound? Pop it out, pop in one other tube. And there's tons of tubes that are out there that are cheap, new, old stock. There's new tubes that you can get. So yeah, it completely versatile, completely changed the sound. This one also, obviously you can't tube roll. You're kind of stuck with the tube that's in it. But I will say the Raytheon tubes, all of the ones that I've come across, and this is on different levels, whether that be like in the Lear 3 or that be in, I had like a ZDT Junior. The Raytheon tubes have always had a precision sort of sound to it, and I think that you're also getting that precision sort of sound out of the Valley One. Now, there's been other people that have like made mods to this that have changed out like these coupling capacitors and other stuff. So, I mean, if you want to go crazy with it, I guess you can go crazy with it. There's still not much room to mod. You're still stuck with like this case unless you move it to another case. But still, awesome form factor, awesome little amp. And so yeah, I'm actually going to be selling this one because I really don't have a need for both of these two amps. I'm kind of sad to let this one go, but I was really glad to have a long sort of experience with this, because like I said, you can find them pretty cheap on the market. And if that's, if you're want something, it might be, if you have a Magni now or something, it might seem like kind of a side grade to get something like a Valley 2 or even like a used Valley 1. But they are very, very exciting amps, and I can't say like too many bad things about either of them. So I really like them. I mean, just remember that they are $150 amps. So just because I sit here and say, oh, they're great, they're wonderful, they're still not going to. I mean, there's other amplifiers obviously that are going to best it as far as like, detail retrieval and just width and depth and sound signature, and just be a lot more pleasant to listen to. And that's why those amps like cost more money, because there's a lot more stuff going on. But for $149 to have this kind of quality and this type of in this amp, I don't see that there's another amp for $150 that would sound better than this amp. Matter of fact, there's I mean, it probably competes with amps in the $300 range, like twice its power. I don't want to bring no tubes. So if you're looking for that tube sound, if you're looking for what tubes can bring, if you're looking at what, everybody talks about tubes and what kind of sound I can get with tubes and what are tubes going to do for me, I think a Valley 2 Plus is a good way to start and a good way to kind of like tube roll, and you kind of get a sense of that sort of like tube goodness, even though that it's a hybrid amp. And then you can kind of like, kind of go from there. You can kind of start from there. And some people, that's where they stop. And then some people, they just like keep going and then wind up like building their own, amp or spending thousands of dollars. So, but I think that, you can still get a lot of enjoyment out of both these amps. So if you have any questions about these amps, if you have any comments about these amplifiers, if you have anything that you want to ask me, please hit me up in the comments. Let me know. I always respond to every single comment, and I will always get back to you. So even if you have an idea that you want to talk about, please let me know. I'm completely approachable, and so I look forward to everybody's comments. And please like and subscribe. And we'll see you later on. And we'll, I'm going to be talking about, what's my next video on? Oh, it's on like these guys. Like dongles. So I got one. Got another one. Got another one. I think I got dongles. So yeah, that's gonna be my next video, which I'll be talking about. Dongles. So we'll see you guys next time. Later on.